distinctly different, okay? There's a bright light, there's a medium, and there's a dark. Yet they all look like they could be yellow, right? So you don't want to get too close in contrast because then you won't get the feel of the shape. It's important that the shape shows itself from 20 feet away without any reflections or anything, just with light. So now, somebody get the Vestine ready and some paper or something so I can clean my edges as I work, because I don't want to have a problem with the edges being dirty on the triangle. Who has a clean triangle? Okay, we're taping, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when I get to my next color, I'm going to clean the edge. So what I'm going to do is the top surface is going to show the lighter color. But since part of the reflection is leaving color out in order to make it look like it's highly polished, I'm going to start with the color off of the corner. So the white that I'm leaving behind is actually a glare from it being highly polished. Did you notice how I changed the angle of the tip when I had the similar angles? I'll be doing that again now. Change the angle as I'm going down. Okay, so that's my first base coat. It's the lighter color. This is the lighter plane. So I'm going to leave that at that for now and move up to this color, which is going to be my medium color, and that'll be on this side. It could be either of the two sides. You select. Now what I like to do is I like to leave a gap between the colors of white. That makes it look like it's a highlight. If it bleeds together, don't get upset because it will happen to you. Notice I'm working in all vertical strokes. And I angle the tip to the angle of the beginning and the end. The stepping will go away. It'll either bleed into itself or you will get better at positioning your marker tip with each stroke to avoid the staircase effect. But as you render, that goes away too. So now I'm going to let that dry and go into the darker color. Once I'm done with the darker color and I move back, I'm going to have to clean my edge. Or I try to keep track of which edge I use for what and then go to the next edge that's actually clean. So again, I'm going to step this over so that I have that white left behind, and that acts as a highlight of the corner. Bring this down all the way to the bottom. Don't press hard. You want to learn to give yourself just enough pressure for the ink to flow and for your stroke to be consistent, but not so much that you get a blob at the beginning and the end. That's something you're going to have to play with. You're going to do that before you leave. All my strokes are parallel and they're all vertical. Granted, this does get a little hard when you're doing something biomorphic or something that's very curvaceous. It gets a little hard to do vertical strokes. And at that point, when we get to that type of rendering, I'll show you a different way of doing it. But for now, keep it all square and simple. Okay, so there's your three basic colors. You basically have a look without any reflections. Now we're going to go back, and I'm going to change my edge. Every plane is going to go through the same transition. Okay, it's going to go from light to white to your core, which is going to be the darkest value of the color for each plane. And that's going to blend from darkest to medium back to the normal color that it is. So there's two ways to do it. Watercolor, you can change markers, or you can do it all with the same marker. Try to avoid having your strokes go into the corner because then it looks like your box is hollow. So I offset that stroke away from the corner. And because this is a lot like watercolor, I can use the same color twice and have it get darker. Thing at the end. Right. Now I'm going to let that dry because you'll puddle if you keep on going with the same marker on the same plane without letting it dry between tones. Right now you've got your light and your medium in the same tone. There's going to be a darker value of that tone coming, but you won't see it unless you let that dry first before you apply it. So now we go to the medium. I'm going to go back to the dark one. And now I'm going to have a reflection that is a different angle, and I'm just going to do this and this to frame it out. It actually does kind of stop the bleeding if you frame it out first. So what I'm doing is I'm adding the medium value of the same marker by using it twice. Medium, light, white. The white will be pencil and paint later on. And this is your medium, your light, and then your medium and your dark core will be adding when this is dry. So what am I going to do now? I'm going to do the medium and core of the darkest color on this side here.
Are you considering light source when you're doing these?
Yeah, the light source would be up here, or probably over here since that's dark. Okay. So that would be this. That. I'm going to go back to the lighter color. Good triangles have 3 edges because you have one for each tone. Okay, so now that's the darkest value of that color. And that will give you the effect of it being shiny and contrasting. So now let's go to this. Somebody get a white Prismacolor ready for me, and did anybody get the wash?
I have it.
Yeah, I got it.
Good. We will need that. See, I'm blending from dark to light. I'm blending. And sometimes it's just a streak like that. And then you can pull over your medium a little bit more, and then darken your darkest value a little bit more until it becomes very contrasting. Contrast is everything. Hard light against hard dark. Okay, and now I'm doing my last core, the core for the darkest value. Okay, that's that. Now, let's have a white pencil. And get the paint ready. Okay. Actually, I'm going to do one thing first. Take black. Pick one side and 2 bottoms. And do your... This helps to pop it off the page. over these corners here, clean up whatever blobs you have to the best of your ability. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It works really good on this paper because this paper has a tube, so you can actually see your white pencil over your dark brown marker, and it helps to hide your steps and blobs, which you'll always get. Just kind of clean. Alright, now, since you want the lightest value up against the darkest value, you're putting the white pencil up against the darkest value, and you're blending off. Now, I'm sure everybody has their own way of blending. I usually just do it linearly, and I get lighter and lighter, and as I move away, that creates an effect of the light source. This contrast is what makes your object look shiny, and you'll learn how to move that reflective core around your object so that it makes it look like it's polished, or it's chrome, or it's just molded plastic, like a bright red molded plastic Italian coffee maker. You know, knowing how to make things that shiny helps. You have subsequent reflections here, so you can put some of these in there just to make it look like there's something going on that you're trying to show, make it more interesting. Here you don't really need it because you use the white of the paper, but you could always put a couple here. Just stay away from the corners. Don't have anything coming from a corner unless you want that to look like a hollow. Okay, so now, what's left? The paint? We've got the paint. And we're almost done. About 30 seconds. You can have a dish off to the side with some water, and you can thin this out, or you can just rely on the fact that the tube is new, and it's going to be very liquidy and workable. Some people like to stretch their reflections or their highlights. You kind of want to have them work with each other across the object. Where you have 3 points meeting each other, that's where you're going to have the largest highlight, because you've got 3 light sources smacking into each other. So you have a big one there, and I got one here, one here, one here. Okay, so that's just about it. Here, trying not to go too crazy with it. And if you really like it, you go back and put a highlight. That's it. Do this 6 times. Before you go, I want you to do one of these here. But before you do that, I'd like you to do something else first. I want you to take with a pencil and turn the box I want you to practice. So give me. Don't worry about making them all the same. You practice using the marker. So give me 6 boxes on your page. And again, you're not being graded on this. This is just to see how you handle this. Who here has handled markers before? It shouldn't be everyone, because I've been told that not everyone's going to have the same capability. So 6 boxes, don't worry what size they are, and then just before you do that, I want you to do this. Any color you want, you frame it. You're not going to put reflections. This is simply to see if your strokes leave open lines or overlap. You need to learn how far over to move your triangle so your overlap of strokes is almost non-existent. That only comes with practice. That's anything else. Everybody knows how to use all 88 keys the first day. Okay? You got it. So you can have an overlap like that. Alright, so this is for you to get used to using these unwieldy